So now we turn to Jerry Cao from the Hang Seng University of Hong Kong.
Actually, Dan's paper was really a good start for my, almost like sister paper, right? So this paper was, actually the title was not right, but I didn't put the title because, used to name the title was the elephant in the boardroom, the case of party and in case of party reform in the SOE, okay? So we're still wondering what the appropriate title would be to basically bring out, highlight the story of this paper, okay? So this is Jerry Cao from the Hang Seng Business School of Hong Kong, right? I used to working at SMU, actually. This paper was also a joint work with my former colleague at SMU, Jeremy Gou, and my former PhD student, Wenlian. He used to working for the Chinese University of Hong Kong in Shenzhen. But for the sake of actually Wenlian's job, he wanted to turn down this paper because we don't want to make a political paper. We want to make a governance paper. But actually, you cannot hide the fact that it's a political paper, okay? So inevitably, we're going to talk about, the party and the party's role, right, in the Chinese enterprises. So let me give you some sort of background. Actually, at the WTO, when the Chinese government promised that they're going to, do a lot of reform so that the whole, political system, right, the party or the economy have to conform to the market rule here, right? Or what they call, whatever, the socialist market economy. But unfortunately, nothing happened. Actually, even I think I would say, actually we see the reverse of it. Okay, so we'll talk about this one. So the concern is that actually the concern here is that the concern of the Western countries, right, is that the party exercise control, in terms of the very much in the economy through, for example, the SOE. Of course, you have also different instruments. For example, right, you have policies, you have subsidies, right, you have all kind of control that they can affect the allocation of the resources. Okay, these are very important, right? Because when the government decide to develop the economy, right, they wanted to grow the market economy, they can do so by encouraging, by actually tunneling more of the resources from the agriculture side to the industry side. They can also, collect more taxes, right, through either, the personal income tax, corporate tax, even the land tax, we call land tax. So they can actually turn all these resources to develop their industrial, players. For example, they wanted to grow the EV sector, right? They can do so very quickly because they have, huge subsidies, incentives, tax incentives, et cetera, so that these production side would grow very rapidly, okay? Here we are talking a little bit different because we actually was try to say there's what they call the dual system in the government. One side you have this what you call government official, and on the other side you also have this party, right? So it used to be that the government official, alone there, right? I mean, you talk about premier, you talk about provincial governor. These guys, take an important role in running this organization, right? Governing the local economy. But unfortunately, the party, right? They also play a role. I don't know if you guys went to China, right? If you ever visited China, if you go to a university, okay, if the president is honored to see you, you say, hey, this is great, right? The president. But if you also have the chance to meet the party secretary, if you know the Chinese thing, you will say, hey, this is great, right? Because this is really the #1 guy who actually, allocate some time, meet me and listen to me. What do you guys want to do, right? So here we wanted to actually tell you what's going on, in the SOE, right? How this what do you call the executives, and on top of that, you call the party cadres, how they actually control the SOE, okay, through this this event. Okay, we would talk about, right? So let's just sort of, maybe looking a little backwards. What happened in the Chinese SOEs? Okay, always say the whole whole reforms. Okay, so this reform probably is going back to, would it go back to the 1990s, where the premier at that time, Mr. Zhu Rongji, right, when he facing the tremendous pressure because the economy was in a stagnant situation, right? There's inflation. Okay, so what he does is try to basically call the grasp the large, release the small. Basically, they let go of the small and the medium-sized SOE. Let them, basically to competing in the market, and basically let go the state control. So basically, sell those ownership of those small and medium and state-owned enterprises. They only keep the largest one. Okay, and these largest one would be actually the way is that they established this agency called SASAC, SAC, SASAC. Okay, and this SASAC was under the State Council, right, which is led by the premier, right, basically to oversee the large SOE. Okay, and then they let the SOE get listed in the Shanghai or Shenzhen Stock Exchange. So they got to the very critical, finance, right, the money. And then they also established what we call the board, the modern governance system. You've got board, you've got basically the CEO, CFO, etc. Right? And the SASAC will be the overseeing body to basically monitor those, those guys. Okay, you have the chairman. Maybe chairman was appointed by SASAC, right? Maybe not. Okay, so but definitely, I think the CEO was appointed by SASAC. Okay, so this is basically the structure that time. And then these whole SOE and the POE, right? They're listed or they're non-listed. They're competing against each other. And China has since then, right? Had 20 or roughly 20 years of the 25 years of the golden age, right? Firm grow, they went to the WTO, right? Firm the grow, economy grow, the whole thing looks great, right? Until then, what they call, until, in the way, let me show you which one to talk about, right? Until when President Xi Jinping step on in the year of 2008, right, 2009, and then in his second term, right, he announcing a very important reform. Let me finish this and go back. Okay, so basically, what that time these movies that they tried to take the control of the SASAC. So they shift the monitoring role, right? Also control role. Literally, these are the same. Okay, from SASAC to the party. Okay, so say why this is important, right? Let me tell you why this is important. Because before this reform, okay, we actually consider the party, okay, is more like a grassroots movements in the SOEs, in the non-SOE. So if you guys know, three party members, they can form a party called a party cell or party organization. Okay, but these party cell party organization, they are like a grassroots. No one cares, right? There's no money allocated to them, right? They are not entering, into this what they call the management or board level of the SOE. Okay, they're just grassroots. But, right, in the year of 2017, right, the State Council issued the rule called the Rule number 36, right, basically reform of the corporate governance structure, which explicitly enforces the legal entity, right, of the party to ensure that party have the authority in the board of the SOE. Okay? And then, of course, I mean, not surprisingly, the non-SOE will follow the suit. Okay? So what this result is, now they become not just the grassroots, within the state-owned enterprises. Now the party will emerge as what you call the central decision maker in the SOE. Okay? This is very important because, if you think about the whole decision that the board have to obtain approval from the party, then they go to the board. Okay? Then they go to the, of course, CEO, CFO, etc. So this is very important, right? And of course, we have some of the, let me skip due to the time constraint. So let me talk about our hypothesis. So we're basically looking at this very important political reform of the SOE. And I ask question, will the market, what do you think the market will expect, right? What would be the value creation? And maybe more fundamentally, we'll ask, why this affecting SOE, right? Because they were under the SASAC before. Now they were under the party control, right? So what's the difference? If you're looking at basically, Hayek or what you call the entrepreneurship, if we say there was some sort of entrepreneurship within the SOE because they were run by professionals, unfortunately now that entrepreneurship spirit would be killed because now this would be the party animal running the SOE. I think that is basically our hypothesis. Okay, so let's looking at some of the results. Okay, so if we're looking at this 10 days, right? We're looking at the abnormal return, right? You run a very simple Kaplan model. Okay, so this yellow bar is the abnormal return. Okay, average abnormal return. Okay, and this blue bar is the abnormal return of the POE or non-SOE. You see that there's a clear, what do you call the contrasting pattern, right? And if we're adding up these abnormal return, we've got the cumulative abnormal return. And this is the cumulative abnormal return for the SOE. That is for the POE. Okay, so this is also the firms from Hong Kong market. Roughly, we've got 250 firms are SOE in Hong Kong market. Okay, there are roughly 700 non-SOE firms listed in Hong Kong, and roughly there are 1,000 firms that is non-SOE listed in. There are roughly 3,000 firms totally in the Hong Kong market. Okay, we sort of combine them. We got this this yellow red bar is the Hong Kong, we'll call it red chip index, mainly SOE. Okay, and then this is a Hong Kong China enterprise, and this is the Hang Seng index. You see that actually they behave dramatically along the the time when this reform was announced, right? Okay, so we run some regression, basically very simple regression. This is using very simple scenario. Okay, we're choosing the event day as a day 0, and we're choosing basically either 3-day window or 5-day window or 10-day window, of course, right? And we're using the calculus CR from a Kaplan model, simple. And you run a Kaplan model on the dummy and some of the bunch of control, size, leverage, etc. You name it, that will control the different characteristics of firms. Okay. So let me show you. This basic regression. Okay. So this is the regression here. You see that the dummy here is always negative, and it's roughly 1 to 1.5%. Okay, for the 3-day window or 5 window. So meaning that roughly there will be 1% abnormal return that or value destruction associated with the reform. Basically saying this reform was a failure. right? But why they're doing it? Well, the party gain, right? They gain the control of the SOE, right? Which is a multi-trillion-dollar assets they can exercise under the party's umbrella, right? And we also run a bit of okay, why we do this is because some company, every company have to rewrite their corporate charter. Because as I mentioned before that, the party was not allowed, was not explicitly, written in the corporate charter that they allow the party to engage within the SOE. Okay? Now, every company, every SOE have to rewritten their corporate charter. They explicitly say, now the party is leading us. How the party is leading us, right? The chairman have to be also the party secretary, okay? The vice chairman of the board have to be the party's disciplinary secretary, all right? And then there are also other members, remember, right? So this is very important, right? If we're looking at the results, right, those corporate charter are already written before that date because some company already done that, right? So they're not that much impact. For those one who haven't rewritten their corporate charter, you see a significant deterioration in the market value. Similar for the CPC already in the board, right? And similar for the, this is pretty much the same. Okay, then we're looking at, let me show you a bit of other, due to the time limit. Some of these corporate governance measures, right? So if they have better independent director, you don't see much, value change, right? Similar for supervision body as well, okay? We do a bunch of cross-sectional regression. The main idea is if there's some sort of monitoring, right, by the market, right, we see that this reform does not seem to have much value destruction. If there's not such so, we see more of the market, value drop associated with this reform. Okay, let me talk about this one, right? So basically we see that the party's grabbing hand or the party's control of the SOE destroy value. Okay, we say this would be a bad reform, but nevertheless, right, party gain control of the SOE, which is very important to the party, right, to the chairman, right, Xi Jinping, whatever, right. I think that's due to the time constraint. I want to just wrap it right here.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Thank you. Thank you for that great presentation. And now we go to Yupana Wiwattanakantang from the National University of Singapore.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. It's really great honor to be here again, and really nice to see many friends that we have been meeting on over the years. Also, very nice to come back to Imperial again, that I spent 1 year on my sabbatical until recently. So I never worked on China before, even though I'm the third generation Chinese. This is a great opportunity for me to read a lot about what have been happening in China, and really amazing indeed. Jerry gave me a bit heart attack because his slide started with this different title from what he sent to me. And I was thinking, what are we doing here? It looks like he toned down a lot. And myself, when I look at Dan's slide, I also toned down a lot because I think it's a big power there. Okay, so what I look at, let's see how I look at the paper. Okay, in the big picture, I think the paper is asking whether state control, or the party control in particular, good or bad for the firm. And this is very important research question, and we have been studying this for so long. It's one of the longest topics that people study, right? In terms of, look at SOE and so on. But what the key challenges that we have, economists in particular, is the identification. How would we tease out the causality? Okay, so difficult to do. And this paper, what they're trying to do is that they come out with the identification, looking at the event that on May 3rd, 2017, when the party issue the law number 36. Basically, what the law is doing in the paper saying that it requires the SOEs to establish party cells, and then revise the corporate charters to insert the party cell as the leadership control of the corporate decision in the firm. Okay, so this is important. Now, to go detail what these laws are about, by the way, I quote the legal scholars' papers, yeah? So first one is symbolic provision. There are 3 provisions there. The first one is put the party constitution, it really codified in the corporate charter. And the second one, something to do with the decision making, is very important. Now, because the party committee is there, whatever the boss want to do for the major corporate decision, have to consult the party committee before going to the board. And the important decisions, something to do with the appointment of important cadres, investment in big projects, and the use of large funds. And another important issue is about personnel, right? HR appointment. Now the secretary of the party committee going to serve as the chairman of the supervisory board, and also a cross appointment between the board of the firm board and the party committee board. And party committee here is the internal party that's set up in the companies. Okay, so now you see now the clear role that the Communist Party is running the firm. Okay, so important event indeed. Now the paper asking further is good or bad for the firm, and then they're looking at announcement of fact and found negative returns. So apparently this is associated with not so good and what the famous grabbing hand hypothesis talks about. Okay, and the paper go on, any good governance, and they look at the traditional governance that might mitigate the party control, and they found that maybe the independent board and the big 4 auditors or large ownership, foreign ownership might play the role. Okay, so my discussion will be around the events because this is very important as identification. Okay, now the 2017 event, is it really the first time that the party gained control of the firm running the firm, either de facto or de jure? Okay, so right, because in order to be the event to be valid. And now I look around to read lots of papers, yeah, and a lot of research papers, legal scholar papers, and look at media papers. And probably people said no, and this I quote Curtis' paper, that no Chinese firm can be considered fully autonomous or independent from the states. Okay, there are many ways that the party has been controlling the firm. I use the word control, yeah? Many ways, and we know that by ownership, right, is a mixed ownership between SOE and POE, and of course the party set up the rules of the game of everybody to operate in China. Okay, lots of regulation as administrative guidance, as well as unspoken regulation, and somebody talking about calling. Marco talked about you can set a phone call and something can happen or not happen. Okay, so example is that Tencent already got a very cool games, but it couldn't launch the games because the government didn't approve it. So a lot of approval going on there. And now looking at this, the party also has been involved in appointing of the executive of SOE. And this paper showed that by 2017, a lot of SOE have already implemented the rules. You know, in particular, the party committee secretary already serving as the chairman of the supervisory board. A lot of things already going on before the 2017. Now, in private companies, many of the founders are also Communist Party members for many reasons, and some of them hidden, and like Jack Ma hidden until before he disappeared, and then he turned out to be a Communist Party members in the 80s. Okay, so it's already there, and then you're looking at party cell or party organization in a company, SOE. So the law is, the regulation already there a long time ago that if you in a company has a couple of party members, then one can set up a party cell within the organization. Now for SOE, they set up that already, but for private firms, listed firms, by 2017, 80% of them already set up party cells. Okay, so influence already there quite a bit. Even foreign companies also. Like this one, Walmart set up party cells since August 2006, right? So this long time ago, Mercedes has as well. Lots of companies have of this. Okay, people comply when you operate in China. Now that's evidence. So let me talk a little bit about regulatory timelines of what's going on. So the effort that Xi Jinping, President Xi, tried to consolidate power or strengthen power of the party over SOE have been going on since he came to power. And among other activities, they started to formalize it about 2015 when the party issued guiding opinions on deepening state-owned enterprises reform. It encouraged SOE to incorporate party cell into the governance system. But nothing happened much until President Xi became what they call the core leader along the line with Deng Xiaoping and Mao, right? So it grabs the power a lot. And this very important speech at the annual meeting on building the role of the party within SOE, in October 10, 2016, he gave a speech and saying that the party leadership should be the foundation and soul of SOE. And it turned out to be the policy so-called modern state-owned enterprise system with Chinese characteristics. And now that's the party gonna run the firm. And once it endorsed by President Xi, things moved very quick, as you can imagine. A few months later, now, December 17, the SASAC held a meeting and reinitiated the plan. And a couple of weeks later, January 3rd, it's already issued, SASAC issued the first guideline on the party building provision. Okay, basically they provide a set of model in which, as a reference for SOE to do the charter revisions, and it's required central SOEs to comply. And by March of 2017, it's already issued on the SOE to comply. So it's already lots of things happening before the event that the paper really focused on later on in 2017. Okay, so lots of news leakages, a lot of things happening before that. Okay, right now. It's a very important event, though, the way the paper picked it up, okay? It's important to look at the way the party codify itself in the corporate charter, okay? Now, what does it mean here? Maybe a legal scholar know better. Why is it important to make it explicit? And before, the party already ran the firm, control corporate decision, it implicit behind the scene, but now it exercise openly and directly, maybe comply with the so-called Western corporate governance, because now it's clear who runs the firm, okay? But what does it mean here? It's an important thing to think about it. Maybe I encourage the paper to go beyond the grabbing hand, helping hand and policies, something else going on here, all right? Now, a bit more, why the paper show that it's negative announcement effect, and another paper published in Journal of Corporate Finance show the opposite, the positive return, using the 4 days that I quoted, right? Now, what does it mean? Investor like it? Investor very happy that now the party put everything on the table, okay? But we don't know what really going on here, but I think it urged all of us to think about what really mean this event to have the party insert in the corporate charter. Okay. Another thing I think it's important for us, all of us, to look as well. Like I think Dan is doing this, right? Who govern the party, right? Any modern mechanism that should help to govern the party, okay? And maybe what about the role of social medias, stock investment platforms that the finance people have been looking a lot, and it's really massive. If you look at the Sina Weibo, it's something like what, Facebook, is it? Yeah. And it doesn't have just a couple million users per day, but it's 255 million users per day, right? And all these snowball, this is like Twitter, right? And you see that 220K posts per day. It's huge, massive. Okay, maybe something interesting going on when retail investor, or maybe the shareholder activism campaigns could launch on the platforms. Maybe it may be hard for the party to control. Maybe something interesting about financial influencer as well. And we have seen the market mechanism might work. What happened recently with the US, right? When the shareholder and bondholders sell off and they're unhappy. Something interesting going on here. Okay, I think you are touching upon very important events and then I think interesting paper. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much, Yupana, for that insightful discussion. Jerry, if you'd like to take a moment to reply while I take the hands for the queue.
Thanks, Yupana, for actually laying out
Hang on.
these backdrop of all these important reforms. Even though we talk about reform, it's not really reform, I would say. Chinese government, using reform to say they're doing better things. Actually, unfortunately, I think that's actually political, it talk about backlash, what I say, right? Maybe in a few years, we see the removal of these party, in the SOE. I think I would expect that one, because as I mentioned, right, well, helping hand grandpa, you're right, Yupana, I think we're thinking deeper, right? What I think really happening is they're killing what you call the minimal entrepreneurial spirit that is attached to the CEO, CFO, executives, when they are less party control. But what they did is they basically kill all of them. That's what I think is about, this paper is about. Not about grabbing hand or helping hand. They all do the grabbing hand, nevertheless, right? So I think that would be something I was thinking more, maybe deeper. Okay, I don't believe the story that these guys find the positive return. I mean, these political right results, pretty much I would say. That's why we cover the Hong Kong market as well, because we wanted to make the results sort of immune from what you call the sample selection, manipulation of some of the beta, these guys can play, right? So for example, I was criticizing this paper basically, okay? I don't believe them, okay? But anyway, I mean, everybody have their, way of defending their research, right? So that's what I want to say. What I wanted to say is, yes, it's a political backlash, caused by President Xi, okay? He is also, of course, a party secretary. So what he does is, once he have the control of the SOE, right, he can directly appoint the party secretary to each of the SOE, directly, so they can control those enterprises. This economic power is very important, even from the perspective of him governing the whole country. I think that's what I want to basically say here, all right? But thank you, anyway.
Thank you, Jerry. So we have a robust queue that is forming, and we start with Holger Spaumann. I also have on the queue, just so you know, and then I know there may be some more hands, Jerry, Jill Fish, Merritt Fox, Eric Talley, and Curtis Millhap. So Holger, over to you.
So the first thing I wanted to say was already alluded to by the commentator. It's the slide behind you. So I think it would be nice to have not just one event, but to look at all the events that have a bearing on this particular question, because maybe what happened on your event date was that the world found out that the reforms don't go as far as they thought they would go, and so therefore, anyway, you get the point. But I have two questions on your actual event study. They're questions, but I have a strong leaning what I would like the answer to be. First, why is the event window -1 to +1? Why not 0 +1 as the first one? And secondly, the standard errors. I think you have to account for correlation within the SOE group. You're clustering at the industry level. I don't know why. In the standard clustering framework, you would cluster at the level of the treatment, which is the SOEs. So then you have two clusters and you have a problem. So then the alternative would be Fehmarn-Macbeth. That would seem to me the natural way to do standard errors here. Sorry.
Actually, we are, yes, you are right. I mean, because this is just, I think this would be the most, the simplest setting here we choose, basically run the event, right? We're not using what you call cross-sectional, right? Time series panel. So this does not allow us to then run the firm fixed effects, right? But we can, of course, clustering on certain, maybe the maybe central SOE or certain, city or province characteristic, which we can do that. I think we can do a little better, right? That is right. Second one is, yeah, we are pretty much, I think I would say, do the Fehmarn-Macbeth indirectly, because we run basically, sort of through two steps. We first did this very simple campaign kind of a thing, right? Second one, we run, then we add them up. We do this car, and then we run the car on the different sets of characters. We can probably do better. Let me think about that one. I think we may not be running the car, but running the AR, in the way that maybe we have better control of the, yeah.
You're not accounting for the correlation between the errors of all the SOEs on a given event date. So presumably there are things, I mean, the economic reason behind it is there are things that affect all SOEs on any given day.
Right.
And so therefore you're treating them essentially as independent observations.
Okay.
And I think you cannot do that. But I saw nodding from somebody else, so we can talk about it offline.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
Thank you. Jill Fish.
So this is a very interesting paper. Laura Lynn at CityU has a couple of papers that I think are consistent in terms of the bottom line. But one of the things that she looks at, and it builds on Yupana's last slide, is the extent to which other mechanisms might constrain party influence, and those other mechanisms, she looks at governance mechanisms that obviously vary from company to company, so I think it's worth taking a look at that. It also, because this happens through a charter amendment, there actually is a shareholder vote, and it's kind of interesting to try to think about what the shareholders, particularly, there are some global investors in this mix, what their reasoning is, and I think she's got a work in progress in which she finds that sort of counterintuitively, they seem to be voting in favor of these. So it might be interesting also to look at that.
Great, yeah, I'm very good actually comments, right? Yes, you're right. I mean, they have to rewrite the corporate charter, right? Each one of them, right? Some rewritten before the reform, as Yupana correctly point out, there's some guideline, people already read the political trends, right? So they were going to do this before the formal reform policy, released, right? But some actually do that afterwards because they wanted to watch what's going on, right? They're always political, that's political, right? There was people who, try to play with these kind of things, right? There's some speculation. There's some, someone was trying to hold on and behold and watch what's going on. But I think that you're right. I mean, we can do that one. We can. What eventually I would say is that, most of the institutional investors from USA, they start to sell their stakes, right? Because of the SOE. Because SOE meaning typically that the state ownership is above 50% or more, so which meaning they have the majority, votes. Okay, so they can do whatever I think they're deemed to be proper. But I think it would be great if we went to look at the private firm who actually rewriting the corporate charter because of this one. Because there's some spillover, we know private sector have to follow, right? If they don't follow, they will see deemed to be, really the one who are not listening, right? Like Jackie Ma, right? They have to claim I'm a Communist Party member because they used to. They don't want to hide, right? It's natural. It's natural. It's good actually. They don't want to highlight that political, status of their personal kind of identity, but they cannot hide afterwards, right? This is something. I mean, the whole thing is that. If you want to think about it, right, I think the only benefit I want to think maybe is that does this sort of political, the parties monitoring, kind of reducing the corruption? I mean, that's one positive side I can think about. But
Okay.
of course, we didn't do that. We should do that, yeah.
Jerry, thank you so much. So we're going to take two this time, Merritt Fox and then Eric Talley.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how much we really can infer from these results about the impact of this rule on the value of these shares. And I think it really goes to what event study methodologies can and can't show us. I mean, in essence, right, this is a best guess by the market at the time, but we now have 7-8 years of performance, and it seems to me this is particularly a situation in which there's just wild range of possibilities in the market's mind as to how this could play out, and now we know much more about how it's played out.
Thank you, Merritt. Eric.
Yeah, no, I fully agree.
Yeah. So I enjoyed the presentation. So first of all, I'll be a +1 on Holger's clustering point. In fact, there might be some of your specifications seem to almost treat as a control group companies that had already sort of capitulated on some level, right? And so that's going to leave the holdouts, and I'm going to guess there's going to be a lot more similarities between them. So you're going to have to worry about clustering at the treatment level. So a couple times during your presentation, this goes on to Mayor's point a little bit. You sort of noted, and it's kind of like I guess it's like a reflex to do this. Say, oh, we see these abnormal returns, and therefore this reform was a failure. And so Merit raises one, sort of question about, well, how quickly can we determine as a failure? But there's another one, I guess, as well, which is that, implicitly that's going to say, look, our measure of what good governance does is going to be concomitant with maximizing positive abnormal returns, right? And so, yeah, maybe. But that's always been a strained proxy even for conventional good corporate governance, which is all about firm value. And that's going to involve all kinds of constituencies other than equity investors and short-term pricing of equity investors to boot. And so the tie's even weaker, I guess, if you think good corporate governance is supposed to be about broader issues as well. And so I guess on some level, I want to push back and sort of say, okay, to what extent, A, is this a surprise, right? Suppose we had a reform in the UK or the United States that said some non-shareholder constituency gets board representation and some elements of control, whether it's for employees, whether it's for creditors, whether it's for the environment, whether it's for communities, and we saw these results. Would we then conclude this reform has been a failure, or would we conclude that this reform has been a success? And to the extent that it's the latter, then I think you got more work to do tying the PRC parties' influence against, is it just patronage, or are they essentially sort of acting as some type of a security guard for broader constituencies?
Jerry, this is GCGC, so we've got a very engaged audience. I'm going to add just two more to squeeze into the end of the session. We have Curtis Milhaupt and Claudia Custodio. Yeah. Curtis.
Okay, thanks. Just a couple of points. One is just a question on what does it mean to say that the party controls the enterprise. Remember, these are the same folks, right? The people are wearing a corporate hat and a party hat. It's not as if the party people are in a separate room from the corporate people. All the people who run the corporations at the senior SOE level are also senior political folks. Otherwise, they would have not reached that level in the firm. So what the reform is saying is is formalizing the idea that they should take party considerations they should take party policy into consideration in running the firm. They were most likely already doing that, or they wouldn't be in those positions. So to some extent, this may be less dramatic than it's made out to be. I would just echo, Jill's point. So I did a paper with Lauren Lin, which shows that 6% of private firms adopted these same reforms, even when they were not required or even encouraged to do so. 10% of SOEs didn't adopt these. So it's a very messy picture. But I think it raises the question, why would a private firm adopt these measures when they're not even required to do so? It suggests that genuflecting to the party in some kind of overt way is thought to be good for business, and that's consistent with lots of lines of literature that political connections are valuable in getting bank loans, in doing an IPO, et cetera, et cetera.
And importantly, last but not least, our conference chair.
Thank you. No, just to follow up on Holger's point, I think with regards to the window of estimation, I think it would just be nice to see what's going on in the few days before. So you might still consider the -1, -2, but because this might tell us about what would be driving this effect.
So you have probably less than a minute. So it'll be impossible for him to answer all of your excellent questions. But a lightning round wrap-up.
We tried all the windows, believe us. But I think that would be a very good question for you to actually raise, right? What we're thinking is that, yes, they already have sort of control over the SOE indirectly, basically through the personnel appointment, which I have a paper on the management science. We talk about the political promotion of the CEO, chairman, etc., right? But actually, this is more blatant, because they just insert the party cadres to the board, which is board is supposed to be very professional guys who make, corporate decisions, right? Now you got the party guys who making decisions. It's unfortunate. That's what I want to say. It's different.
Thank you so much, Jerry. with people coming from all around the world for a global conference, the coffee breaks are essential. But we have to thank so much everybody that contributed to this amazing first session with original and important research. Thank you all, and now we go to coffee break.